Hey, welcome to the New Home Insights podcast by John Burns Real Estate Consulting. I'm Dean Worley, your host. Each episode, we're going to bring you some of the best minds in the housing business talking about some fascinating topics or trend or innovation or issue, just like the one you're about to listen to. Enjoy. Hi, this is Dean Worley for the New Home Insights podcast by John Burns Real Estate Consulting. We recently released our list of the top 50 best-selling master plans for 2020. These were a reflection of the roller coaster ride that was the housing industry in 2020, with record-breaking sales and remarkable growth year over year. This meant, though, that our top 50 list was pretty tough to crack, so we decided to take a look under the hood of some of these success stories. We talked to 6 of the folks behind about 15 or so of the top 50 master plans to get their insights on what drove their success and what trends they picked up on. Even though we tried to keep each segment as brief as we could, there were so many insights from our participants that we're going to do this in 2 parts. So we'll cover Daybreak in Salt Lake City and several communities each from Brookfield communities and Newland communities in this episode. Next week, for part 2, we'll look at Lakewood Ranch in Florida, River Islands in Northern California, and then Johnson Development in Texas. First up is Cameron Jackson from Daybreak in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's a 4,000 plus acre community that dominates the regional new home landscape. Cameron is the Senior Director of Marketing for Daybreak. He's been doing this thing for almost 20 years and is comfortable with nuances of marketing new homes as well as using data-driven approaches to understanding consumer behavior. Now we have Cameron Jackson, the top dog, whether he likes it or not, also the Director of Marketing at the Daybreak Master Plan in Salt Lake City, Utah area. Cameron, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. Good to be here.
Good that you're here. So Daybreak just barely snuck into our top 50 best-selling master plans for 2020 with 1,055 sales, good for the 6th place. So just eked in
just barely skin of our teeth
with a 40%, by the way, year-over-year growth level. So pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it was a great year.
What has been the biggest driver for your sales at Daybreak here this last year plus?
You know, what's interesting for us is it's difficult. I've been asked that question a lot, and it's difficult to just, put my finger on any one thing. I think for us, it was really the fact that we just have a really broad variety of choices in the community. So within Daybreak, we actually have Daybreak is really 5 communities in one. We have, different neighborhoods for families, for move-up buyers, for first-time buyers, active adults. We've got a luxury neighborhood on an island in the middle of a lake. And so that range of product offering is really what I think has really driven our success over the last couple of years, really, and especially in 2020.
Do you guys take pains to make sure that you're properly segmented just consistently? You have breadth of product, and is that something you're always concerned with?
Absolutely. Yeah. We analyze that very, very closely, and we work closely with our builders to, make sure that everybody's kind of staying in their lane. And that really, gives us that breadth and allows all of our builders to get the sales volumes that they're looking for. And it just creates a lot of choices for the consumer.
Daybreak's not really a core location. Kind of, it's a little bit out there. It's unusual, isn't it, to have that kind of breadth of product given that kind of location?
Yeah, in a big market, in a Houston or some of the Florida markets, that are huge, something like that, where you have really big master plans. We've kind of, learned from a lot of that and brought that here to the Salt Lake market, and there really isn't anything like what we're doing in the Salt Lake market. And so, to get to over 1,000 homes in 2020 in such a small market that Salt Lake is, compared to a Houston or an Orlando, a Tampa, something like that, I think is pretty remarkable.
I think so too. That might also be a little bit of a secret of the appeal of master plan in that they are more able to bring product breadth to relatively outlying areas than any kind of a standalone would be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, you certainly have relocation buyers that we see that are coming from California or other places that that are used to master plans. But then when there aren't a ton of master plans in a market, it definitely stands out in the mind of the consumer. And, I think we see probably about a 10% pricing premium over, kind of your typical builder subdivision, even if it's just right outside of Daybreak, because people see the value in, the careful design, the architecture, the amenities, and kind of the culture that we've tried to create here.
Does Daybreak, given its size and scope, have a bigger advantage in a Salt Lake City where there's just, I think, tell me if I'm wrong, just nothing like it than maybe a master plan elsewhere might have?
I mean, there's probably something to that for sure. I mean, we do have, a lot of builders here that are doing, lots of different kind of small subdivisions in different places. We've got, just to the south of us, larger land holdings where developers are starting new master plans. So we've definitely had our share of competition, and certainly we're not competing with them on price. I mean, when we run the numbers in the market and compare ourselves to all of the other large communities, we do have the highest sales volume, but we also sell at the highest price per square foot of any community in the market. So we certainly don't compete on price, and that's an area where if someone really wanted to, they could really, give us a run for our money. But again, I think it goes back to the public's, education and awareness of the value of a master plan and their willingness to pay for it, to pay the premium for it, really.
Has there been any buyer segments, any buyer types that have been in kind of the star of the show this last year or so?
And, it's tough. Again, it's tough to put a finger on that. It's really been, across the board. I think what we've seen is we've seen some success that we didn't necessarily anticipate we'd have right out of the gate with, really small lot single family products, because, basically in our market, and I would assume in most markets across the country, the townhome or the condo is basically the new first time buyer product. And so what we've done, it's often referred to as kind of the missing middle, so to speak, but we've found some success with, 3-story single family homes on, smaller lots that are kind of competing almost with townhomes on price, but then gives the buyer that, detached single family home, experience.
Yeah, but you're doing even flats now, aren't you? For sale. My colleague Kristen Matthews has been out there, and I'm be honest with you, surprised how dense you're getting out there.
Yeah, well, we have. I mean, the whole concept behind our master plan is really trying to balance the jobs to housing ratio. So what we're doing is we're building, denser. We have a town center area that's next to a freeway and has light rail that comes right into it. We have 2 light rail stations, and in that area, we're creating kind of what I believe it's John Burns who coined the term suburban. We're
Serving.
creating a kind of a suburban village within our community, and we're building those stat flats in there. They just barely got started with sales here a couple weeks ago, and so yeah, we're finding that people still like cities. People still like being able to walk to restaurants and walk to a train, and sometimes they want to just leave the car in the garage and go somewhere nearby, and that sort of kind of safe urban lifestyle has been pretty popular here in Daybreak.
Has Daybreak got a big dose of that COVID inspired or COVID impacted out migration kind of demand?
I think we have. I mean, it's so interesting how some of us worked from home for a long time, and then all of a sudden, one day, it was like a switch, and half the world was working from home, and we all learned that we could do it. And
Yeah.
what's great about Utah is low cost of living, great economy, great access to the outdoors. I live in Daybreak myself, and I can jump in my car and be on the ski slope in a half hour to 40 minutes. I can be in the mountains with my mountain bike in about the same amount of time. Or if I live in Daybreak, I can carry my own kayak or my stand up paddleboard down to the lake that's 10 minutes away on a lunch break. And so those sorts of things are really appealing to people. And so we've absolutely seen, particularly from California, little bit from the Midwest, but we've had some months this year where, 17 or 18% of our sales for a given month have been from out of state buyers.
Wow. And paddleboarding on the lunch break. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
it's fun. You
I
should
like
try it
that idea.
sometime.
I don't know where I would go paddleboarding. Um, have you had sort of a star also in the terms of marketing and outreach? What has worked better lately than something else?
I think what we've tried to do on the digital marketing side is, we've really tried to study the numbers, and really crunch the numbers on our performance. I mean, that's the great thing about digital marketing is you can really see what's working and what isn't. I mean, we're actually big proponents of a balanced marketing approach. We do a fair amount of traditional marketing, but certainly Facebook has been, one of the big stars for us, and Zillow, because, I don't know if you've seen any of those commercials or the fake Saturday Night Live skits, but there are people that, when they're bored, they're spending time on Zillow, just dreaming about what they might go buy and what they might do. And so, Zillow's been, a real star for us because I think a lot of people have been sitting home, bored and sort of ruminating in what they don't like about their current house and looking at Zillow and saying, that would be great. Let's go look at that. So we've seen a lot of success there.
I don't think I have seen those Zillows. If it's not sports or foreign mysteries on Netflix, I don't think I would see those
Well,
those
there
ads
is an off
anymore.
season, Dean. So you can check it out when your favorite sport is in its off season.
I like them all, except for soccer. I hate soccer. How have you maintained your master plan? Your cohesion, your lifestyle, and master plans interactions are so critical. Community interactions. How have you maintained that during this COVID time?
It's definitely been challenging, and it definitely has not been the same. When you can't get 3,000 people on the village green for a concert series on a Friday or a Saturday night, which is what we're used to doing. So we've done a lot of the we have a great organization called Live Daybreak that's our nonprofit, and they're funded through a transfer fee or a community enhancement fee. And what they do is they plan a lot of events. They run a lot of the club, book clubs and um, paddleboard clubs and bike clubs, and I mean, you name it. And they do a number of really great events. And so they did a lot of things over Zoom that they've done. We've tried to do things responsibly in kind of smaller chunks rather than the big events, and it's worked out okay. I can't say it's been perfect, but I think the use of digital tools and the use of video and some of those things has helped us try to kind of keep it together. But you're absolutely right. I mean, the hallmark of a good master plan community is the ability for people to get together and interact, and that's been tough for sure.
But because in a master plan, you're more likely, I think, to know your neighbors. There's a certain cohesion there. Do you think master plans have a little bit of a safety advantage? They just feel a little safer.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And in our community, we follow a traditional neighborhood design. And so almost every home has a porch, and the porch has become sort of the star of COVID, right? It's the place now where it's safe to, sit and chat with your neighbors, whether they come over or whether you just see them as they walk by. And even just, out on the walking trails around the lake, in the parks, because they're near to your home, closer than you would be in a regular subdivision. And so there's definitely been opportunities for interaction, and people have even discovered, the use of their front porch, like I said, as a place where that can happen. And so yeah, I think master plans are resilient in terms of the way that they're designed. They're designed for. I've just been surprised at how well people have been able to interact. Definitely in small groups and not big groups, but been able to interact nonetheless. It's been great.
You said a minute ago that your master plan, like to like against a standalone, might have a sort of a 10% price premium, roughly. Is that more now with COVID than it was pre-COVID?
I haven't really analyzed that, but my guess would be yes, because again, if you're sitting home a whole bunch and you're looking for something to do that's right outside the door, that you can walk around the corner to a park or to a local restaurant to grab a bite to eat or something like that. It's much easier to do that in a master plan than it is someplace else. And there is that sort of notion of familiarity with your neighbors in terms of who's around you and that sort of a thing. So yeah, I mean our pricing has been. I was just looking at our numbers from February sales, and we track the price per foot of what we're selling. And we hit for the first time ever, the average of all of our sales in February was $250 a foot is what we were selling for, which for our market is pretty high. Our previous average, our market average, just to give you the data point, is about $200 a foot. So 250 is high even for us. And so we're starting to see, certainly that a desire to be in a place like this.
The reason I asked that, by the way, is because our top 50 best-selling master plan list, every single master plan pretty much was up year over year from 2019. And not just up, but like you guys, up incredibly strongly. So it does make sense that there is something just people feel, again, maybe a little safer, maybe there's a more of a consistent supply, but master plans seem to have increased their advantage here lately.
Well, and it's the same thing we saw back in the previous recession, right? So, in '08 and '09, we definitely saw a drop in our sales back then in that market, which was very different. But we did not see a huge dip in prices. And we definitely were able to, if not hold our own, outsell our regular subdivision competitors because there was that feeling of safety of long-term value that is created in a master plan when you design it in a certain way.
And I think I can anticipate this answer as well from what you said just a minute ago, but things so far in 21 have been going swimmingly, it sounds like.
Yeah, they've been great. I mean, as long as we have inventory, we've been selling. January actually surprised us. We sold 85 homes in January, and we didn't have quite that many in February. I think we were in the low 50s. But where we have lot inventory available, we've seen great sales success. The demand certainly hasn't dropped off. The challenge is really just having enough lots of each type in each segment to be able to meet the demand.
Yeah, we're hearing that literally
Yep.
from everyone everywhere. How about in terms of, let's wrap up with this. What has been just that really something special about Daybreak that lets you stand out from the crowd?
Boy, I think it's really a strong commitment to authentic design. So, and people notice that, when you drive down a tree-lined street, and the architecture, has that authentic feel of the homes that look like they could be 100 years old out of a Norman Rockwell painting. People know the difference between that and when someone is, for all intents and purposes, kind of just putting lipstick on something. And so I think that, that authenticity in design, I think comes through in, the experience of living here and the way that people interact and, the types of activities that happen here. And so there's been, it attracts, I think, a certain type of person that's looking for, something that's real, both in terms of what they buy and in terms of, kind of the relationships that they have with their neighbors. So it's really, master plans are really a unique thing in their ability to do that. But then when you add that layer of, not just looking like the homes everywhere else, but having that authentic design, I think that's what people really respond to.
And they have responded, like I said, over 1,000 last year and heading for another great year in 21. Thank you, Cameron, for coming on and joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good to be here. Appreciate you having me.
Caitlyn Lai-Valenti is next. She is the Senior Director of Sales and Marketing for Brookfield Residential in Southern California. where she manages sales and marketing, strategy, modeling, customer experience, and technology initiatives. Though she's based in Southern California, Caitlyn has a tremendous grasp of all things Brookfield. And in a minute, you'll hear her speak eloquently and knowledgeably about all four of the Brookfield master plans from across the country that made our list. Now we have Caitlyn Lai-Valenti. She's a senior director of sales and marketing from Brookfield Residential. Caitlyn, how is everything with you?
Awesome. It's been an awesome year so far, so we're super excited.
And last year, too.
And last year, too.
So Caitlyn and I are going to chat about the count them, four master plans that Brookfield either developed or co-developed that appeared on our top 50 best-selling master plan list for 2020. They are, real briefly, they're Ontario Ranch at number 5, and Audie Murphy Ranch at number 42. Both of those are in Southern California's Inland Empire, the 909, shout out. Eastmark, number 15 on our list, which is in the Phoenix area, and then Easton Park, number 33 on the list in the Texas capital in Austin. Caitlyn, that's pretty darn impressive. Was this mainly your doing, I'm assuming?
It would be Adrian Foley's doing.
Come on, take the credit. At least do like a humble brag and say, well, it wasn't completely me. I had a little help. Come on.
We have a pretty amazing team here, so we're happy to be here.
Let's start with the big picture then. What has been your biggest and best, the most important sales driver for your master plans in 2020 and on to this year?
You know, I'd have to say that the three key drivers to why our master plan communities are thriving from Southern California to Phoenix to Austin is really kind of amenities and lifestyle, location, and just that product segmentation with a strong value proposition. I mean, amenities is really, and lifestyle are front and center at each of our master plan communities. We really deliver high on lifestyle with that desirable resort style amenities and that prime resident programming for the community to create that sense of connection. I mean, that community engagement is key as it really appeals to our families all the way to our millennial buyers alike. And in terms of location, I mean, we're really in outstanding prime locations with proximity to employment centers, access to retail, and those core transportation corridors, which just gives our homeowners a better quality of life. And just in terms of the segmentation, you know, the communities offer such a range of home sizes, types, and price points from a variety of builders. And so that really gives our home shoppers, they're really seeing that overall value. And so you'll see that across all of our master plans, lots of different synergy that exists within the community.
So you're getting a lot of different folks buying there. Has any one segment kind of stood out and been kind of a champion this past year or so?
You know, it's been in Ontario. You know, it's been wonderful to see all of the first time buyers and those who have been living at home coming out and purchasing their first home. Over 50% of our home buyers there are purchasing their homes for the first time, and about 44% of our home buyers there are under the age of 40. So it's pretty fantastic to see.
Yeah. Size and scope. A lot of your master plans, they're pretty big. Ontario Ranch is ginormous, I know. I think Easton Park is pretty big too. Do you think that gives you an edge?
It does. You know, one of the nice things about New Haven is that it's a very unique master plan community, and we're able to have reciprocal amenity centers there. And so that really makes it gives the homeowners there the ability to have highly amenitized community brimming with recreation, parks, gathering spaces. The residents there have access to over 15 acres of private resort style amenities, swimming pools, splash zones. You have a super playgrounds. And so we're able to theme each individual amenity center with a different concept. So you have that outdoorsy, that sports theme where you have super playgrounds, fitness centers, and sports courts. Then if you want to relax, you can go over to where we've got social spaces and fire pits or picnic gardens. And so it really gives a nice, robust space. It's also a gigabit community with high-speed internet access, and so we've been able to partner with the city there and introduce some really neat concepts. We'll be rolling out clever scooters. We've got the Jita following robots that families can adopt, really to kind of promote that more active lifestyle. And then we also have AnyHub smart nodes that will be coming to the local retail center there. So really some fun programming for the residents there.
Cool. So clever scooters and robots. I've seen Terminator. Should people be worried? It sounds a
You'll
little
see
scary, doesn't
they
it?
look a little bit like Pokemon, so you'll see them following residents through the neighborhoods.
That can get a little spooky, I think, maybe, but I'm sure it's very cool. Did your master plans get a good chunk of that COVID augmented demand from those people who were, fleeing higher density product or higher density locations to you? Was that a big driver as well?
We did see that in Southwest Riverside. We were really seeing an influx of buyers coming from Los Angeles and Orange County as they now have the ability to work remotely, which opened up their geographic search options. I mean, home shoppers were really attracted to that value proposition because now you're able to purchase a home at a lower price point for a brand new, larger home on a larger home site. In our Phoenix marketplace at Eastmark, we're also seeing an influx of home buyers from out of state. So really, and also large families looking at moving up to nicer homes, looking for a little more space or for that connected community. So some of them moved a little bit earlier than they had originally planned to. So I think that pandemic really kind of helped to shift some of those priorities.
You're not the first person to say that on this. So I've been asking kind of a follow up for that this sort of time shift in terms of that buying decision. Do you think there's any, I don't know, threats, not that's too strong a word, but do you think some of this demand is maybe stolen from next year or the year after because of that time shift?
You know what? I think with the interest rate, we've really seen like a lot of the buyers that demand has really increased because of the interest rates, and almost you have this like FOMO,
Mhm.
mentality because there's this fear of missing out as you're seeing interest rates are so low. You have price appreciation, so everyone's afraid of getting priced out of the market, and then also that pandemic in terms of the stay-at-home orders and everyone looking for their own space to be able to really kind of spread out, have their own space to be able to quarantine at home.
Did you have any key marketing tactic or sales tactic or outreach that you thought really was very effective this past year or so?
Yeah, at the start of the pandemic, we really shifted our marketing dollars away from print ads and focused instead on increasing our digital footprint to really look to meet our customers where they are. I mean, we really looked at targeted banner ads, virtual tours, walkthrough videos, Matterport tours. In terms of our outreach e-blast, we really tried to focus on messaging that really resonated with today's home shoppers. So it's really that need around flexible space to support, work from home, distance learning. Families were now using their home for, entertainment, for fitness needs. New construction and the opportunity to personalize has also been strong messages that have really resonated with home shoppers. And then we also saw a lot of strong engagement on social media. I mean, many found themselves with a little more time to engage on social media, and many were also looking for ways to kind of find that connection with others. So that was great to see.
Any any sense of which platform on social media is most effective? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Are you doing TikTok 15-second videos? Getting out there, getting the kids?
We do a lot of Facebook and Instagram, and we've seen a lot of engagement there. A lot of the families are also resharing our post, and so it's been really nice to see that. And then also, we've been trying to find ways in partnering with the association to be able to stay connected with those residents and find ways to have them tag us as well, whether it's through like
Yeah.
porch photos or just different ways to stay connected.
I'm just saying, think about doing dance moves on TikTok. I think that would be huge. Just think, consider. That's all I ask. How have you maintained your lifestyle here during COVID? Has that, people are, there's less interaction, there's all the sheltering in place. Has that been an issue at any of your master plans? And how have you reacted to that?
We have really had to kind of reshift the way we thought about events, right? We want to stay connected. We still want to find ways to outreach to the residents to keep that engagement strong. So we really partnered with our on-site lifestyle coordinators and really established social committees that were led by residents to nurture those community events to stay safe and creative with homeowner events. I mean, we think about Eastmark with approximately 16,000 families that live in the neighborhood. Eventually, the main pool and recreation centers were able to open at a reduced number, but it required residents to reserve appointments online. They also tried to do, in terms of like Easter events. So instead of having um, an Easter event where everyone came to the clubhouses, they posted a route map and had a real-time schedule where residents could track where the Easter Bunny was at and they could come out and wave at them. They also did spaced outdoor fitness classes, which have also been really popular, and then doing more smaller, intimate events on online forums as well. So that's been great, but we've just kind of re-envisioned those spaces. And so, paint and sip night, so more virtual, inspirational pieces where you can connect with neighbors and create masterpieces. So a lot of different ways of keeping everyone connected.
I was worried when you brought up Easter eggs. I thought you said you're going to say something like, "We spaced the Easter eggs out about a quarter mile into the desert and let the kids run around and find them." So that would have been a bad solution.
So now
I'm
we're
glad
using
you
everyone's lawn. We're doing, you can sign up to get egged, and they actually go out,
Okay.
the vendor will go out and hide Easter eggs on everyone's individual lawn as opposed to doing it on at the shared community.
You might want to rethink the name of that. Getting your house egged. I don't know. That could be misconstrued. Do you think that master plans are viewed as safer since COVID? You do have the greater spaces. You do. I don't know. You probably there's more connection with the folks around you. Do you think that's been an advantage?
I do. HOA payments are funneled back into the community to really contribute towards community engagement, safety and security. You have maintenance and lighting. And then it also services the administration and all of the management. So all of those factors really help to contribute to a safer community. And there's so much value in building a community of neighbors who are both engaged and who also get to know one another so they look out for each other. So I think that community programming from an experienced management company not only gives residents that sense of connectivity, but it also provides confidence that their community is being maintained.
Has that confidence then in turn led to maybe some greater premiums in price or pace for a master plan versus your standalone non-master plans like home? Do you think there's a bigger pop, in other words, for master plans?
I'd absolutely like to think so. I mean, premiums for new homes, for homes in master plan communities over standalone communities, I think those have grown as buyers are now more attracted to new homes in a community that also offers open spaces and that low maintenance lifestyle. I mean, if we think about amenities, they've become increasingly more important in consideration when you're purchasing a home, because as you're leaving these like rich urban centers with amenities, having trails, lakes, outdoor play at your doorstep, it almost becomes an extension of your home. So I think that's very important.
That's a good point. So yeah, especially if you are one of those out migration buyers leaving sort of a mature environment with those, I don't know, urban amenities, you're
Hmm.
being replaced by these great master plan amenities. And you're not going to get that in a standalone suburban environment, are you?
And you get all of that with that low maintenance lifestyle in the community. And so I think it really just brings it all together.
How's 21 been for you so far? I think from what you said at the very top, pretty good.
It's really been unbelievable. I mean, our communities are growing faster than ever. We've seen sales increases, 13% year over year. And between our four master plan communities, we've seen price appreciation somewhere between 17 to 20% year over year. Like I was saying, we have to savor this moment because we have not been in a position where we've achieved 90% of our backlog for 2021 so early in the year.
Gosh.
So
Yeah, that's
it's
amazing.
crazy,
That,
right?
that it really is. 21 really does seem, if anything, that it's getting better because remember 20 had those, depending on the market, those couple of months where sales were gutted, and
Right.
21 the conditions are still just as strong and knock on wood, but we don't see those couple of brutal months in the middle of it.
And we can barely keep homes in supply. I mean, we've really moved to metering our phase releases by releasing a handful of homes at a time because we're really not in a position to start any additional homes. So accelerating, those phase releases don't make sense. At our community in Ontario Ranch, we've been seeing 50 to 60 loan applications come through a week. So as soon as homes are available, they're gone again. So that's stepped up that level of qualified buyers. But you've got that built-in price appreciation as price continues to rise. We're also seeing fewer cancellations.
Wow. Let's end with something that's unique. Maybe one or two of your master plans, something that really sets them apart and makes them special.
Well, if you're ever in Mesa, Arizona, you've got to stop and see Eastmark. At 3,600 acres, I mean, Eastmark really continues to thoughtfully develop with the needs of the marketplace. I mean, I think our patience has enabled us to take advantage of the right opportunities when they presented themselves. The addition of Apple's Global Operations Center, which anchors that community's technology enterprise district. It's got a 2-acre organic commercial farm that feeds local residents and restaurants, and that cool 1940s Valentine's diner. It's really a chef-run farm to table, and it's located at the center of the community. So it's more than just like cool features. They're additions and amenities that residents really prize and adds value to the entire surrounding community.
The Valentine's Diner, has that been on what is it, Diners, Drivers, and Dives yet?
We've got to send in a vote to get it on there.
I have like 80 in my DVR queue, so eventually I'll see it if it has been on. But if it hasn't, it should. Let's get that. Let's make that happen. I'll call Guy.
That's right.
I don't really know him. I'll call him for you. Awesome. Well, Caitlyn, I appreciate all your insights and coming on the show.
Dean, it was my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Last up for this episode, we have Peter Dennehy. He is the Vice President of Customer and Market Research at Newland Communities, one of the largest real estate developers in the world. Peter has a probably unique background of working for all of the biggest and best firms in the real estate consulting business. He is now on the developer side of that with one of the best firms in that business, where he keeps tabs on consumer preferences and trends and helps make Newland master plans so successful. Hey, Peter. Good morning. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Dean?
This is Peter Dennehy, who I've known for a very, very long time. He is the Vice President of Market and Consumer Research at Newland Communities. So he has a lot of ground to cover because Newland Communities has 5 master plans in our list of the top 50 best-selling master plans from 2020. So we have Estrella in the Phoenix area. We have Ellison in Houston. We have Bexley in the wonderful town of Land O'Lakes, Florida, not Minnesota, which is just north of Tampa. We have Nexton outside of Charleston, South Carolina, and we have Tahale in Tacoma, Washington area. Do I have that right, Peter?
That's correct.
Cool. So you have a lot to choose from here when you're going through how successful your master plans and why they've been successful. So just feel free to pick and choose, generalize to your heart's content from one of the many that have done so well. So let's start with the big kind of fundamental question. Generally speaking, what's been your biggest kind of sales driver in 2020 that propelled all those sales in those 5 master plans?
I'm going to give an answer that we actually learned from doing a survey of our shoppers and buyers during the pandemic year. And what we found is that community matters more than ever. Among our buyers in 2020 that purchased a home during the kind of pandemic period, they said that the number one motivation was a desire for being in a planned community with amenities. They were looking for a wide array of new construction options, including those that had, either more space or multifunctional spaces, and they wanted a better sense of community. And those were all things that were at the top of the list in terms of motivators to buy specifically during 2020. And, and I'd also just say that, master plans in general, they typically, we have low interest rates at this time. That's good for all of our projects. But I would say that the ones that made your list and that were top sellers for us tended to have very good segmentation with lots of product offerings including homes that were targeted to kind of that first-time buyer or millennial buyer, which we saw, a big increase in activity from this year.
That kind of sort of presupposes that. So I think I know the answer now, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Has there been a buyer segment that performed better in 2020? And I know you have a lot of age qualified in years too, but was it millennials that were the stars of your demand as a more so than increased demand from the AQ sector or anywhere else?
Yeah, I would say if we had to pick a buyer group that was the star, it was that millennial first time or first move up buyer. Buyers were they were more likely to be renters, relatively high incomes. I wouldn't say we don't have true entry level housing or a lot of attached at all of our projects, but we generally had things that were at least affordable to a young family or a young couple that was planning to start a family. Often renters, and they were the stars. We did see, active adult buyers were there during the year. They did back off when the pandemic kind of took on. And we saw them back away from projects maybe for a month or two. But even the active adult buyers started to really come back by early summer. And for them, it was probably kind of hey, we've been planning a move for a long time. And now that we've been released from our home, it's time to get the heck out of here. So, yeah.
Did you get the sense you got any of those folks that were sort of near retirement and just pulled the trigger a little earlier? Maybe they even got a cash out from their employer. Does that any kind of pop from that?
Yes, about a third of our buyers this year said that they moved their plans up because of the pandemic. And I think that it was both the renters living in a home that might have been planning to make a purchase and thought this was a good time because of interest rates and their personal situation. But yes, also in some cases, it was those people that just, were finally kind of pulled the plug. I think particularly, like in people coming out of the Northeast or retiring to places like Austin from California and places like that. We saw a lot of that type of buyer this year.
Did you get any obvious, again, I'm assuming the answer is probably yes, but tease it out for me, that kind of COVID augmentation, that kind of moving away from the outlines, from more urban areas or more dense product into a more outlined area or lower density product?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we actually asked people who moved to our communities and purchased this year what kind of environment they'd come out of. And true urban, like city or very dense urban, was actually a pretty small factor. It was like 10 or 11%. Most of our buyers actually came from a more suburban location. They were already living in something like one of our communities, either a planned community or a suburb, probably in an apartment or an older home. And so, they were kind of they wanted that suburban lifestyle. They were probably already somewhat used to it. Living in a place that was more residential, that had services and recreation nearby. And they were motivated to kind of go to a planned community that kind of had new options with all of those features built in. So I would say less urban. Yes, I would say we did not prove the urban theory.
That's interesting because you are Houston, Phoenix. I mean, those are places with some high density urban environments, and you are not seeing that as much. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think people came out of rental. So if you consider a rental, project to be more dense than a single family home, yes, probably people did. I don't think a lot of people came out of a high rise in downtown Houston straight to our project.
Okay. And to me, that feels like I've been asked a lot lately about this idea of sort of stolen demand, stolen from the future. To me, that person who, because of work from home, could suddenly go where they wanted to go and live where they wanted to live. That to me is not stolen demand. That's real demand that could have been there years ago. But you mentioned that a lot of your folks, a third, I think you said, were kind of pushed up their plans. Do you think there is a sense, a little bit of stolen demand here in 2020 and even continuing now?
No, I think because conditions for housing were so strong beforehand. I mean, all those factors that are still in play, the growth of the millennial population. I mean, that's kind of been a trend we've seen over the last 2 years. We stopped, boomers used to be dominant in our projects until about 3 years ago, and then millennials are more and more so. So, low interest rates, good time to buy, young families that are just kind of coming into that age. I will say at some of our projects, particularly in the Pacific Northwest, we did see a lot of that work from home tech worker, just because, they're in the greater Seattle and greater Portland areas. And they can live further away. So we did see some of that. Yeah, I think it's certain of our communities that work from home trend has really kind of driven sales. So particularly for Tahale, which is in that Seattle-Tacoma area. We already had a lot of people there that were working from home in the greater region or retiring, kind of pre-retiring to a place where they were eventually going to retire. And that trend seemed to have exacerbated during this year.
Okay. Was there any marketing tactic, any kind of outreach that seemed particularly more effective than others?
Well, home shopping and the techniques that we use completely shifted during the pandemic, and probably a lot of that is here to stay. Home buyers want to shop on their time and shop how they want to shop. And so, we quickly pivoted to offer all kinds of appointment, one-on-one and virtual tours of all sites. So that they could see exactly what they wanted to see when they saw it. So we found that visual tools were extremely important this year. They wanted to see them, they wanted not just to see the home, but they wanted to see the community, the amenities, and those were a big success. And also, providing a personal touch, whether that was a chat, kind of a chat conversation online, or the ability to schedule an appointment or a visit when you were ready to have that personal interaction. So, we did an appointment scheduler online that we didn't have before that gave you a variety of options there. So we really kind of met people where they wanted to be. And I think a lot of those sales tools will continue past this year.
It's funny you say that because you have like a virtual hub, I think, on your website for a lot of your master plans, I've noticed. So you guys have really adopted that wholeheartedly, as everyone has, I guess, I suppose. But you guys were kind of cutting edge there.
Yeah, and I think we did some very unique things. I mean, at the Nexton project, I think you may have featured it in some of your stuff this year. They really pioneered for us the use of drone tours, and they did like a weekend event. I think they targeted it through Facebook. People signed up, and it was really essentially like a drone tour of the models, a drone tour of the active adult community, a realtor focused event that was also a drone tour. We did meetings with our investors by drone last summer. So, that's something we wouldn't have done, I think, without this year. And it was very successful in getting interest and, showing the communities to people during that time.
But I think the personal touch part that is shown in your data is important because people want both, don't they? They want to be visual and virtual, but they still want to have, when they want it, they want to have that personalization. And so it's dangerous to go 100% virtual.
Yeah, we found that, you're absolutely right. We found that when people were ready to buy, buyers in particular, people who were shopping were very content to use the online tools, but when somebody was ready to make a purchase, it was the personal interaction tools that they turned to. They wanted to make an appointment. They wanted to come see the model, a one-on-one tour of the home that they were going to purchase. They wanted, information on back from the builder, sales agent, or us on the community. And if we had any complaints about sales process, it was usually something that had to do with the personal interaction. I made an appointment and somebody didn't show up, or I didn't get an answer back on my design options for 5 days or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I think it really has to be a blend. People are comfortable with online shopping. We found that the majority of our shoppers were happy to look online until they were ready to go.
Okay. Has it been a problem maintaining the lifestyle there in the restrictions to COVID, the shelter in place? How have you done that at your master plans?
Yeah, I mean, we did. I think you're asking a couple of different things. Obviously, we allowed we virtually closed all of our sales, our info centers where we had one overnight. And so we had to kind of pivot to that virtual thing and by appointment. Of course, the builders had to do that as well. I think, most of our communities have a lifestyle director. We have outdoor spaces. So as a master plan community developer, we were still able to do events and kind of foster that master plan lifestyle, but do it, with kind of virtual, by doing virtual events, whether that was a Zoom happy hour or, organizing the parade for the teachers or that kind, those kinds of things. So we were able to kind of, the builders were able to do the live thing primarily by appointment when, local jurisdictions allowed it. We as a master, kind of selling the community, selling the lifestyle, were able to also use some of those virtual tools to do events during that time. And of course, the good news is we've kind of gone back to being open again everywhere.
Yeah.
So,
do you see master plans gaining a little bit more of a bump, a premium versus standalones because of what's happened in COVID, and how's a little bit more of a cohesive environment there?
Yeah, I mean that's like a $64 million question. What our teams would say is that there's master plan communities in good markets and bad typically do command a premium. They're seen as safe places to buy. They offer a lot of home choices and amenities that people find desirable. We found this year that there was incredible demand for our lots, and we were able to raise home and lot prices. So I think communities and master plans are important. COVID heightened that for both residents and shoppers. Master plans are incredibly desirable communities right now, and so it's really hard. It's easy to find builders and home buyers and shoppers that want to be in them. So I think that's a long way of saying I think the premium increased that they always command. And then the other interesting thing is that our projects all sold very well once we went back to selling. We exceeded our business plan for 2020 by almost 45%. So we had very strong sales and absorptions, and of course, that's commands a premium. That's a premium in the market, and our lot prices went up. Our home prices went up. Building costs also went up just to a degree, so partly that was offset. But all of our projects, including the 5 that made your list, increased their market share in their regions, and we saw that after the Great Recession as well. That master plan communities increase market share, in a more uncertain market, and we saw that again in 2020.
Especially here, though, this particular to this event, this pandemic, master plans they just seem safer. They just seem a little more controlled, if that's the right word, and that I think that gave people a little more confidence to choose that environment. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
How has 21 been so far? So far, more the same?
We're off to a really great start. That's easy to answer right now. After a month or two, we're almost at 25% of our annual sales goal. So we had an extremely strong start of the year in the first 7 or 8 weeks of the year. But I would just say I would say that the conditions for housing are great. We are, keeping a close eye on builder inventory and our own pace of lot deliveries to ensure that, builders can continue building and selling homes throughout the whole year. We're paying attention to resale markets and affordability. We want to make sure that we keep a very broad product offering and product segmentation in the master plans. We've seen a strong demand from those first-time buyers and those younger buyers in particular, and we want to make sure that we have as good options for them. And then, we're keeping an eye kind of on the resale market as well. If the time to build, we benefited from, resale inventory going down and, there not being a lot of choices in the resale market this year. But if that switches and, it becomes easier to buy a resale home, that can be a competitive disadvantage. So we're keeping an eye on inventory and all of those things. Buyers want to buy a home now. They don't want to wait 6 months to have it be built.
But with resale inventory just brutally low, the certainty, even if it's a little bit longer time horizon of new, is pretty attractive.
Exactly. I think that's one of the reasons why 2020 turned out to be so surprisingly good. New homes had an advantage because they were the safe, clean environment.
Yeah.
They offered more space and the functionality, and builders had them to sell.
Now, feel free to answer this last question however you want. You can be real specific or you can be real general, but are there some really just items or factors in your master plans that have set them apart from the background noise? I know Nexton, I think, is kind of just really wired, and really the connectivity and the technology there is state of the art. Is that true? Are there other things in your master plans that have really made them special?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as I said, what outdoor spaces seem to be most important at this time to our buyers. They value the opportunity to be outdoors. The three top amenities for shoppers and buyers were parks and open spaces, walking trails, and bike paths. So, I think what was unique about our projects, all of them, offer that planned community setting with amenities. They all offer, as I said, a segmented array of new construction options. And they offer that better sense of community, and particularly the opportunities to be active outdoors. Some of our projects that are on your list, like Tahale, offer the really unique location in the Pacific Northwest with dramatic views of Mount Rainier, and that's just no other master plan community has a mountain like that's kind of looming over the community and has beautiful views and miles of open space and trails.
I've seen that view from the clubhouse, Peter, right? And it looks photoshopped. It's really it's unbelievable. That view of Mount Rainier from the clubhouse.
I would say,
it's amazing.
Yeah, so like some of our communities just offer a really unique natural setting that just can't be replicated. Estrella, it's once you arrive there, it's really like a desert oasis surrounded by mountains. And, that community also has miles of, bike and walking trails with like a very natural setting. So, I'd say it's partly the kinds of things that every master plan community has, new homes, amenities, the ability to do things outdoors. And then for certain of our communities, it's just really, spectacular natural settings that are very unique in their markets.
Yeah. And that's just picking the right spots.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Peter. This has been very insightful, as I expected it to be. I appreciate you coming on.
I'm happy to do it. Thanks for having me.